Welcome to C-Vine News. You're listening to The Truth with your host, Linda Forsythe.
Welcome to C-Vine, We the People. This is Linda Forsythe on KTIE AM 590 Radio. And today we have a very special guest, Kelly Marie Brady, who is also known on social media as Nancy Drew. Kelly has been spending the last year daily walking around Washington, D.C., doing video live reporting on exactly what it is that she sees. And I'll tell you, her work has been absolutely mind-blowing, eye-opening. And she's been doing this now, I believe, for the past year. I'll have her clarify in a minute if I'm off base. But because of what I have been seeing that she's doing, we reached out to each other, and Kelly has agreed to become a volunteer citizen journalist with C-Vine. So we are going to continue working together along with many other citizen journalists to help bring the truth to we the people so we know what is going on with verifiable proof. Well, welcome, Kelly, to today's show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I tell you, watching what you have been accomplishing and what you're doing and the courage that you have been showing by doing videotaping and everything that you've been doing, showing the pictures and reporting, what possessed you to start doing this?
Wow, that's a loaded question, but I really don't know, to be honest with you. I had been in the truth movement for almost a year. I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of deep digs on many different topics, and I just felt compelled. I had this nudge. I call it nudges. I had a nudge to just get my booty into that city. And I had been terrified. I've grown up here all my life in Maryland, and to be quite honest, was terrified of DC and hadn't been there very many times throughout my lifetime. And so I got this nudge. I thought, you're close enough. You've got this hunger for the truth. I just needed the truth desperately. I needed it desperately for myself, worried about my future, my kids' future, my country's future, everything. And I just went one day, and I believe honestly, wholeheartedly, that I had been divinely protected and divinely nudged throughout this entire journey. So it just kind of happened. It just went from there.
Well, you made a decision because you saw so many things that very many people are questioning. Mm-hmm. And what better way to do it than what many Americans are now just beginning to understand is they need to get up, get out there, and not only do some of their own research, but look things up and also take action. So I commend you for taking the time and the effort to get out there to do that.
Thank you.
With that being said, when you were there, how did you say you had a nudge? What was interesting is you always wonderfully were in a lot of right places at the right times, catching some great footage. Mm-hmm. Did you, with the videotaping or anything, I don't know, has it really opened your eyes?
The videotaping that I've done?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I mean, I'm there a year later, almost every day. So, and I think the hardest thing for me throughout this entire time is that I would love to be able to show people the entire city of DC. I'd love to be able to show them a huge video, if you will, of everything. And so they can see it put together, because I know that I've only really been able to show them pieces, great pieces at times. Some were nothings, but really great pieces at times. But I think that if they were able to see the entire picture and how it's been working together, more people would sit and relax like I do, because I've never, not one day, doubted what was going on. I've never lost faith. So I have seen amazing things take place in DC, things that broke my heart, things that took me to my knees. I mean, really took me to my knees. And, things that made me cry happy tears, so I've seen it all. I've seen quite a bit there.
Well, I saw one post that you made, believe it was yesterday, that where you did some pictures like the Christmas tree that was out front. And you made an interesting statement that it was almost brown, not very well kept. And why don't you tell us what you saw?
The tree it's half dead. It looks terrible. It's half dead. And, the Capitol isn't a pretty place anyhow. That's basically the only thing that you'll see there holiday related. There was nothing there for Hanukkah. I don't know if that's a normal thing or not. That's something I'll look into, actually. The tree's half dead. And, in addition, we have that enormous eyesore of a fence that we have yet to confirm its meaning. But it has an appearance of a very large fence, very sturdy fence. And it just really is very sad. That's our nation's capital. And, there's tourists, they're walking up to the tree, they're taking pictures. And it's just like, I was actually yesterday very embarrassed.
Just because of how they're not keeping things up. Well, with that being said, ever since January 6th of this year, where they are coining it the quote unquote insurrection, we had people from Seavine there. We didn't see an insurrection personally, all the filming that was done and et cetera. We just saw a lot of very happy patriots celebrating our country and asking questions. And, it was a rally. And then we all know what has come out since then and the narrative that's being spun.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, with everything just going crazy with everything, the fences being thrown up and, just how many is all around DC, is there a lot of people like there used to be? I mean, when I used to go to Washington, D.C., it would be packed with traffic and a huge amount of people everywhere. What have you been seeing since you have been going there?
Basically the ghost town, it's a ghost town there. Most of the buildings are not being used. Most of the activity that you see is the construction and the activity taking place between the White House and the Capitol. Many of the buildings have sandbags around them. I've done actually a couple of lengthy lives walking around several of the buildings where they have sandbags around the buildings, and the buildings are unkempt. You can look in the right buildings and you can see it's just in disarray. There's like empty boxes in the windows and things thrown, and it looks like somebody went in there and just ransacked the place and kind of left it. There is very little life in DC right now. The streets are empty. Basically just some tourists. And, funny thing, like, now that it'll get colder, you won't even see that. Within the next couple of months, it'll be really empty, just like it was last year. It was really, really empty.
Well, I do know that, that a lot of the Senate and everybody are basically on holiday vacation, so to speak. So I'm sure it's even emptier than normal, but before, everybody has been dismissed or has been gone. Are you noticing much of a difference?
There's just very little activity in DC all around. Just very little activity. Basically I would say about, and this is just a guess of mine, a third of the buildings are being used, like really used.
What buildings would you say are being really used that you could see?
Well, the Capitol, obviously, the Capitol is sees quite a bit. The White House, it used to have a lot of activity, a lot of activity. It has slowed down and has had some activity in different ways now, but it's not as much as it used to be. The Capitol, however, has been now, mind you, I sat outside of the fencing for months, before the fencing even came down. So I stood outside of the very, very tall Capitol, big, huge thing with the razor wire around it. I stood outside of that for months. So I wasn't aware. And actually, it's funny because I'll tell you what people don't know is that not only was the Capitol fenced in, but many city blocks around the Capitol were fenced in along with it. There are other government buildings. They had blocks fenced in with the Capitol, not just the Capitol. So people need to ask themselves if the Capitol was being protected because of the quote unquote insurrection, why on earth would they have many, many, many government buildings fenced in along with?
Well, that is an excellent question. From what I understood, the fencing, when we had sent some other citizen journalists there, were significantly more right around the inauguration of Biden and, around the Capitol. And then they took a lot of fencing down. Are you saying that the fencing has gone back up?
Oh, no. I'm saying that at the same time, when they fenced in the Capitol, they also fenced in multiple buildings right there along with the Capitol. So we're talking like the Longworth building. I'm not sure what that one building's name is on the opposite corner of the Capitol. Buildings on the other side of the street of the Capitol, down 3rd Street, were even fenced in along with the Capitol. All of the fencing has come down around the Capitol other than they have some of that waist high fencing, that silver fencing kind of looks like a bike rack. And they do have this enormous beast of a fence being put on, I don't know what to call it. I call it the enormous patio out back, the west side of the Capitol that faces the National Mall. They are installing some sort of fence.
So they're adding more fencing.
Yes.
Well,
but on the building's patio itself, which it's a patio that where the stairs meet. So the fence ends there, and then it's that lengthy staircase that comes down into the yard of the Capitol. So it's up. It's not around the building. It's up on the patio itself. So it's only fencing in this section, a very large section of the patio, which is
that's interesting that
Exactly.
that is the case going on. Now, I know there is a whole lot more that you have seen, and we are going to discuss that in just a few minutes when we come back from our station break. This, again, is Linda Forsythe from CVine News on AM 590 KTIE, and we will be back with Kelly Marie Brady, also known as Nancy Drew, in just a minute.
Are you at risk of losing everything you have worked for all these years? Hi, this is attorney Ron Osk. If you are a business owner and have been impacted by the COVID-19 shutdown, you may be able to save your business and bring it back to life by filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy or a small business Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Our office has over 38 years of experience with assisting businesses and their families to keep their assets and continue to make their living. The purpose of a Chapter 13 or Chapter 11 is not to liquidate your business as you would with a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The purpose of a Chapter 13 or Chapter 11 bankruptcy is to restore your business to good health. Call us today to schedule a free phone or Zoom consultation, toll-free at 1-800-660-5608. That's 1-800-660-5608. or visit our website at www.askbankruptcy.net.
What is CVINE anyway? The acronym CVINE stands for Community Voices, Investigations, News, and Education. CVINE is a grassroots collection of people from all walks of life, skills, and talents, banding together to heal our community. As a group of law enforcement, retired military, accountants, teachers, doctors, nurses, clergy, stay-at-home moms, or the local construction worker, CVINE donates their time where needed. It is we the people who built America. From generations of blood, sweat, and tears, CVINE creates teams to tackle work where it is needed. All volunteers have their own businesses or personal lives, but donate their time in an area they have experience and skills. The news portion of CVINE investigates existing news stories by licensed investigators. CVINE journalists report the news live on social media. CVINE also has commentary and analysis recorded on AM radio. Watch for news teams now being formed in the education sector called Project Mayberry, coming very soon. Visit the cvine.com website, become a member, and sign up for CVINE's newsletter. That's c-vine.com, c-vine.com.
AM 590.
Hey, folks, just a quick reminder that back in 2008 and 9, a lot of people lost all of their retirement savings and their 401ks and IRAs because they did not own gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Gold and silver protects you from a market crash. So do yourself a favor. Protect your retirement by purchasing gold and silver. You can go to moneymetals.com, reach out to them, and they will help you set yourself up to protect you and your family from having to start all over from scratch. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code PIMPY, P-I-M-P-Y, and they will send along with your order a free half-ounce of silver. So folks, do yourself a favor, head on over to moneymetals.com and protect you and your family from a market crash, as well as inflation.
AM 590. The Answer.
Welcome back to CVINE, We the People. This is Linda Forsythe on AM KTIE 590 Radio. And I have our special guest today, Kelly Marie Brady, also known as Nancy Drew, who has been sleuthing around Washington, D.C., letting everybody know what it is that's really been going on. Now, there is one thing that you reported the other day I found quite interesting. You said that you went into the hall of pictures where all the presidents are. What is it that you saw of interest, and why is it interesting?
Well, I'd actually seen a TikTok video that someone had made, and I figured, it's pretty interesting. I'm going to go in and check that out myself. So that's what I did. And I went live before I even went into the visitor center, showed everybody where I was, and took a walk in, and we found the wall of where the president's faces are. And what I found very interesting was, here it is, December, 2021. And, a year later, a year and 2 months almost later than, he supposedly won the election. And there was not a picture of Joe Biden on this wall. That the last president's face on the wall was definitely Donald Trump. And not only was his face the last one on the wall, it had the year 2017 with the dash, and there was no ending date to his presidency. And that to me was pretty interesting. 14 months later, that, here we have, no picture of our supposed current president, but yet it was Trump.
Well, that is interesting.
Like music to my eyes, to be quite honest with you. I just
Well, it certainly raises quite a few questions, that's for sure, and good questions on my end, which is outstanding. How often have you seen President Biden running around Washington, D.C., any, limos and the entire entourage? What have you seen that shows that he's been very busy?
Well, I can tell you there have been 2 times. Well, no, wait a minute. Let me back that up. There has been 1 time when I have seen his face in a motorcade. That was about 3 weeks ago. That was I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday afternoon. He was supposedly leaving from, I don't know, I think it was Massachusetts or something. But the flight time and the time to get from Andrews to the White House didn't add up. To me, I checked into the flight time, how long it should take, and it was impossible to do. So I went over and I found where they were set up to. They do they have protocol where they set up throughout the city when there's a motorcade coming, and I spotted that out and went and camped over and waited for the motorcade. And when the motorcade came in, it was clear to me that now I'm smart enough to know that that's not him. However, I am also smart enough to know that they make these wonderful masks that can make people look like whoever they want. So with that being said, he was like, it was very bizarre. And actually I thought, what a jerk, to be honest with you, like that's what I figured the people around me were saying to themselves. They had to be, because there were a lot of people standing around that day. It was really funny. And, they think they're seeing the president come by and they're all like happy and they're reading. And this person was in the back passenger seat, literally staring at the front passenger seat, would not move, would not, just staring straight ahead with a black mask across his face, and would not even address the crowd. Like as our president, what they thought to be our president, he did not even address like the entire crowd around them. That is the only time I personally have seen anything show related.
So with all the, I don't know, 100 gazillion people that supposedly voted for him, and this huge amount of following of what has come out in the election that was there and wanted him as president, are you seeing even remotely anything like you saw with Trump, of people being celebratory, just wanting to, you're saying he doesn't really interact with the people that you have been able to see really much at all? Is that what you're saying?
I had no. And, it's the White House for, a very long time. I want to say they didn't start really getting into it until the summer. It looked terrible there. It was unkempt in there. They weren't doing the yard, and out in Lafayette Square, there was trash everywhere. And it just was really, really a very sad looking White House for many, 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 many months.
Is it still that way now? I mean, you're saying that there's trash laying around. I mean, there hasn't even been any upkeep.
Oh yeah, they got in there and they started nailing it around there. They've got the fountains all done. Well, I'll address on the north side. So they got the fountains all done, and they got Lafayette Square cleaned up. They've done a lot of landscaping. They've got guys in there that are trimming all the old dead trees down finally, and they've really cleaned up the north side quite a bit. So it looks really, really nice now. The south side is a completely different story. Now, the south side, I've watched a lot of things take place back there. They really dug up a considerable amount of the backyard, the side yard. They were fences put up and down. There were solid fences that were put up in order to keep from seeing behind there. They have had huge pieces of machinery, what I found out to be excavators, excavating the yard for months and months and months. So the backyard now, for the most part, They don't have the fountain up and running. I think that they actually may not. It looks to me that it's just cement now, but I could be wrong. But the fountain is not running. They do have that put back in. That was all dug up. They have the upper, if you're looking at the south side of the house, to the right, there's this enormous hill where the excavators just dug and dug and dug for months. That's finished, but they do have some equipment that's still down on the lower right part of the yard towards the fence. Still some equipment that's digging. And they've had questionable companies back there doing questionable activities. So, there's definitely some things that we need to ask why. And the main thing is, and this has been my whole thing the whole time, why isn't anyone showing any of this other than me? Why isn't the mainstream media showing all of the construction going on at the White House, within the White House property itself, its yard? If it isn't of, let me think of here, why aren't they showing it? If it's just major construction or minor construction, if it's replacing water pipes or whatever it is, why isn't it the people's business?
Well, that is actually an excellent question, because there have been certain amounts of activity going on, like you're saying, with construction, and then where all the National Guard there for a while was everywhere. How long was the National Guard in place? When did they finally leave, or are they still there?
Okay, so the initial National Guard was there, and I'm trying to think of when the last troops left. I want to say it was May. There were troops there for forever, let me tell you. And there were many, many, many troops. I have videos from the beginning where there were troops guarding every foot of that yard, it seemed. There were that many behind the razor wire fencing. And then they have brought in National Guard on other occasions, extra National Guard back. For example, on the Biden's, I guess, 100th day address that supposedly took place at the Capitol. So the National Guard were there for forever, lots of them. And I did, I had the feeling, because I've been watching the armories, both the one here in Annapolis by me and the one in DC, closely for months now. And last week I saw a couple of the white, they look like old school buses, the real old school buses, and they're white and they have a blue bird on them. And they have government tags, and they're normally parked at the armory. Well, I saw a couple of them over the other side. I mean, the armory is not really close to, the Capitol. And I saw a couple of those last week. Saw a couple of guys sporadically in uniform, but by the time I've been able to get back around, I couldn't get to them when they were gone. And, but I did see one, and I'm thinking it was, I get my D's mixed up. So pretty sure it was yesterday that I saw him standing on the side of the road. And I did pull over, and I asked him if he was, his assignment was at the Capitol. He told me his was not, that he is on like more of a permanent assignment in one of the other buildings. But he did say that he was aware there were other troops in the city, but he was not aware of their particular assignments. So,
well, interesting. Wow. So with everything going on in our country, with everything happening, with inflation just going crazy, with everything happening with, the prices and gas and food and all these other peripheral things, with, the border, we could go on and on and on. it would seem that there's a whole lot of Americans that are just flustered, that are very fearful for our country about where it's going and what it's happening. It generally is wise for a president who has been elected to start doing whatever they can to, I don't know, calm the masses
them,
and
maybe?
show that
Be a leader, maybe?
right. It's like just being there and saying, I'm here, we're working on it, we're taking care of this, and this is what we're doing with that, and so on, instead of just bringing everything up about the what's going on with the plague.
Right.
And I say that tongue in cheek. It's just crazy that things have been going on to the degree that they have. Well, we're getting ready here to take another break, so please stay tuned when we have Kelly Marie Brady back, Nancy Drew, here on AM 590 Radio, KTIE. We're going to take a station break.
Hey folks, just a quick reminder that back in 2008 and 9, a lot of people lost all of their retirement savings and their 401ks and IRAs because they did not own gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Gold and silver protects you from a market crash. So do yourself a favor, protect your retirement by purchasing gold and silver. You can go to moneymetals.com, reach out to them, and they will help you set yourself up to protect you and your family from having to start all over from scratch. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code PIMPY, P-I-M-P-Y, and they will send along with your order a free half ounce of silver. So folks, do yourself a favor, head on over to moneymetals.com and protect you and your family from a market crash as well as inflation.
Sheriff Mack is reaching out to all Americans to support their local sheriff by joining the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association. This is Linda Forsythe. Sheriff Mack founded this organization to educate the public and support all local sheriffs in our nation. Now, more than ever, our citizens must be able to recognize how a constitutional sheriff acts. Even though all sheriffs take an oath of office to defend our country against enemies, both foreign and domestic, some haven't followed through with that oath. Now is the time to shine a light. Which ones are protecting the people who elected them in their county against illegal constitutional mandates or violent behavior? Your sheriff cannot be told to stand down by any government authority because they were elected by we the people. Citizens and their local sheriff are the last line of defense against tyranny. Sign up for free email updates and alerts at cspoa.org or become a member of the posse for $11 a month. Go to cspoa.org, that's cspoa.org, for Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association.
AM 590, The Answer.
Welcome back to Sabine, We the People. This is Linda Forsythe here on AM 590 Radio, KTIE. I'm here with my guest today, Kelly Marie Brady, also known on social media as Nancy Drew, as she continues to tell us the things that she has seen around Washington, D.C. Now, I know Kelly, that there was one thing that was very interesting, was 100 days into Biden's presidency, he gave a 100-day address, and some pretty strange things happened, I believe, with one of your reports. Why don't you tell us what happened with that?
Right. That was actually a really crazy night. That was the craziest. There's a tie two times, but that was one of the two craziest times. He was supposed to give his 100-day speech at the Capitol, and I decided I was going to get there early. It wasn't supposed to happen until, I don't know, 8 or 9 at night. It was later that night, and I decided to get there early, about 5 o'clock or so, and snoop around the city. I wanted to see. I had studied the city for a very, very long time. I had studied all of the different police agencies, the Secret Service, the Capitol Police. They're all different agencies, and they all set up differently. And I can always tell when there is either a presence or blanketed. So I decided I'd go in and just check out the whole city, not just around the Capitol. And that's what I did. And that city was blanketed from the monument all the way over to the Capitol, which is about a mile and I know that that doesn't sound much, but in the city, that's a lot of city, and probably about a mile wide. It was entirely blanketed, that whole area around the Capitol area. They had the DC Metro Police, they had Secret Service, they had the Secret Service, the black SUVs and the white SUVs. They had Capitol Police everywhere. Vans full of them, buses full of them. They had brought in about 8 buses of National Guardsmen that were surrounding the Capitol, east side, west side, out in the yard, out the perimeter, not in the inside. So they were outside. And this was something that had not happened for a long time. And it was the parking lots on the west side were full of emergency vehicles, full, like fire engines and ambulances and full of police. And there are big parking lots on both sides. And they had those parking lots blocked off with cement barriers and dump trucks. And they had, when I first got to the city, I went to the east side of the Capitol, where I normally video. And that's where the National Guard buses were. The place was crazy. I was just blown away. It was so crazy that night. And I started taking pics, and my face was a little known around there at that point. So they didn't really bother me a whole lot. And they let me hang out and get some pics and things like that. And then I guess it was about 6:30, where they were going to shoo me out. They had put all of these, so surrounding the entire Capitol area, and this is the only place it's like this in the city. They have these roadblocks that are these metal things that pop up out of the ground. And all they do is hit a button, these things pop up out of the ground and block the complete road. Okay, so they have these surrounding the Capitol, surrounding it. Whole perimeter, even at like out by the Supreme Court. So you can't even get over there, which Supreme Court's right across from the Capitol. So they put all of these roadblocks up. So the Capitol was completely locked down. Like you couldn't get in, you couldn't get out. I had to be let out of some of those metal things because I had parked up there. So I'd gotten out, I went down to the west side, but they had popped all the roadblocks up. There were police. You wouldn't believe the blanketing of police. I stood on 3rd Street until, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock that night with police, safe with them, videoing, taking pics. But it was every department, every officer that you could imagine. They had black Secret Service, many of the black Secret Service SUVs over at Union Station. They were guarding Union Station that night. Why were they guarding Union Station? That's bizarre. Right across the street from Union Station, they had a big white tour bus pulled across the street, which led out towards the highway. Why would they, and officers watching that, blocking the road? I mean, it was incredible there. There were sirens all night long that went from the east side of the Capitol out to 395. There were officers out on 395 that were blocking exits. So they were pulled across certain exits with their lights flashing, and it caused like complete chaos throughout the city, and out on 395. And they also had 4 or 5 other big white tour buses over. I'm trying to think. There's a ramp that goes out to 395. It's about a mile down from the Capitol. They were just parked on the side of the street all night, like on standby, in addition to the other ones.
Is this the only time that you are aware of that the 100-day address? You were saying just earlier, if I understood you correctly, that you really haven't seen hardly any activity. Then all of a sudden there's this explosion of activity with this 100-day address. It almost is giving the impression that afraid for his life, afraid of what, or what kind of narrative are they trying to put out there? Have you seen anything even remotely that would give reason to feel that maybe his life is in danger? I mean, what would be the purpose for this explosion of this one time of activity? What are your feelings about that?
My feelings are is that was the big takedown night. They must have, because the sirens were constantly going. I'm in my videos going, guys, can you hear those sirens? They're just, and they were filming. Pictures of guys up in the balcony of the Longworth building, filming all of it. I got pictures of them with the fancy equipment and all these guys with suits, and just they were filming everything that night. And the thing is that I've never seen a setup like that. There's no need for that sort of a setup if our president is simply giving an address. There would be no need to lock an entire mile square section down of the city, including the highways. That doesn't happen for a normal. Of course, they have their security, and I've seen what regular security is, and this was not anything near. And they even brought in over on Independence Avenue. It was right in front of the Wilbert Wright building. Okay, there's two Wright buildings, and the Secret Service had pulled this black truck, and they had this thing on it. It was like on a trailer, and what it appeared to me at first was one of those huge electronic signs. Those ones that probably about 6 feet wide, maybe 4 feet tall, that show some electric message. But when I looked into that machine, what that machine did was it creates sound. It creates almost like an alarm sound, a very, very loud, obnoxious alarm sound. And it's what they use to break up rioting.
Oh, I know what you mean. I think it's they're all different types of forms of direct energy weapons, and they can use sound and all sorts of things to break up crowds. They can do a lot of different things. So
what
that's
kind of a crowd were they expecting that night? I mean, who wants to go and watch Biden's 100th day speech out in the cold but me?
So are you saying that there wasn't a whole lot of people there? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, the city was completely empty. Maybe they thought that a potential crowd could arise that weren't welcome. Obviously, if they brought that out. But, the city was, other than police, the city was quiet. There wasn't hardly anybody out. There were a few people walking, but no, not many.
That in and of itself, again, is interesting because of a president who had the most votes in, I don't know, whenever. And very few people are showing up, where they will come out in the rain, the snow, blizzards, whatever, to see, Trump when he was in the presidency. So that in and of itself, if you use critical thinking, is something to consider. Now, you mentioned before, you do a lot of filming of Black Hawk, the helicopters and that type of thing. There were some situations that you found unique. What were they?
Oh, right. I mean, besides the fact that, I call my helicopters squirrels from the movie Up. But besides the fact that it's been an incredible amount of activity, military activity, different branches of military through DC, through the United States. If anybody wants to go on and look at the trackers, you'll notice how there is incredible amount of military activity. I personally in DC have videoed a ton of it because that's like my That's like my happiness. It keeps me going there. But I did see one day, it kind of took me off guard, and I've been filming for a while. So, but there was a Chinook, which if anybody wants to go ahead and take a quick peek into that and find out what a Chinook is and why the heck would it be flying right over the Lincoln Memorial, very low, scared me one day, ran like a half a mile just to get on video. And then I'd have to say the one that got me, and it shook me up pretty good, to be honest with you. And I kind of went into a little bit of a sadness for a couple of days, if you will, was I guess the beginning of October. It happened when city was under siege somehow. And I was in my car and I had been filming and I was coming around the Pentagon. Excuse me. And, for the life of me, I don't know the name of that bridge. That's terrible. I think it's the George Memorial or something. But I was coming across that towards, from Pentagon City towards DC, towards the Pentagon, and the Blackhawks. It was two of them. And now normally I get so excited and I'm like, oh, happy and all this stuff. But these two flew directly over my car in this bridge, like scared me half to death. They were so low. Never seen them that low over that bridge. And that's where I film. I've never seen them that low, and I've never seen them swoop to the left like they did. They always come in towards the right of the bridge. They kind of come over towards me, and then they veer off. This day, they came over the bridge, swooped left very low, and they landed on the Pentagon's pad, on their landing pad. And it's something that doesn't happen. And that scared me half to death, because it kind of, I think this whole time, it really never hit me that I was really standing in the middle of a war zone in DC. And that day, when that happened, it did. When that happened, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm seriously like, I'm a 53-year-old woman running around DC. I'm in the middle of a war zone today. What? And I lost it. I completely lost it.
Well, what you are talking about and what you're saying would unnerve anybody. We only have about a minute left here. And, Kelly, I would like you to please tell our listeners where they can find you to see some of these incredible live videos that you do every day, to be able to keep up with what's happening. Where can they go to find you?
So I'm on Facebook, and I'm under Kelly Marie Brady. I've been on Facebook for a long time. They have taken down my initial 3 pages. I'm on my 7th page. So they did take down a lot of my journey. The first, I think 8 months is gone. It's just gone. So on Facebook, you're only going to be able to find the past 4 months. But if people are going to find more information right now, until hopefully my Facebook pages can be recovered in the future, Telegram is the best place to go. You can download Telegram, go on there and look for Nancy Drew, DC Adventures. I think it's at KB TV Live is the handle. And that goes back to, I think, actually March. I think my journey goes all the way back to March, because I'm pretty sure that the night I just talked about at the Capitol with the 100th day, pretty sure that information's on there. So that's a really good place to go back. Yeah. And look and start at the beginning. And, it may not make a lot of sense, but what it will do is trigger your thought process. It's going to hopefully make you say,
Well, I think it will. It's definitely going to open up some eyes.
My whole point.
Kelly, I'm so sad because we are at the end of our show. So I highly recommend and encourage people to look Kelly Marie Brady up, Nancy Drew on Telegram, Facebook, Kelly Marie Brady, and see what it is she's talking about, because you can actually see some videos and some live reporting there. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. And we are going to be doing a whole lot else. Well, this is Linda Forsythe from Seavine News from AM 590 KTIE. We will see you next week. 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 See you next week.